gentlemen, welcome on board Gulf News. Thank you very much for coming today and experiencing a crash scenario shortly. If you're training a scenario, the more realistic it is, the better buy-in you have, the better your outcome is. And I can show you now what would happen if you do this on a fixed base mock-up. Welcome to a classroom setting. And now I've just robbed you of your sensory inputs, and it doesn't feel the same anymore. So the idea for dynamic advanced training sort of evolved in 2013. We saw a gap in the market for the specific type of reality-based training that we want to and do provide. It took quite a while to research and to see how we could improve upon conventional training, so stepping away from PowerPoint presentations and getting into a more hands-on practical training environment. A training environment which is fun and which evokes emotions and which ultimately leads to better knowledge retention and a better learning outcome. First of all, we're an independent provider, which means that we customize our training to suit an operator. So while the regulations are quite broad, operators have their own standard operating procedures. And if you are well, not necessarily, but if you're a large training center which is part of an airline, it can be quite rigid. So they will find it a little bit more difficult to adjust the curriculum to suit another operator. In our case, being a bespoke setup, we were able to do that. And because we're independent, we also cater to a larger fleet of commercial aircraft and business jets. So a legacy training center belonging to an airline will typically only be able to train the aircraft types that they have on their fleet, in their fleet. In our case, we can train the Airbus A320 family. We can even do A310, A340, A330, A340, A350. We can do 737, 777, 787 on the commercial aviation side, and on the business aviation side, we can train all the Gulfstreams, all the Globals, Challengers, Falcons, Legacies, and Praetors. So it's a very comprehensive setup. It's a one-stop shop. So anything related to cabin safety can and will be done by Dynamic. The rear section is a 737. We've got the L1 door with real-time slide inflation. Then we've got the classic overwing exit and the NG type overwing exit. On the A320 side, we have the L1 door also with real-time inflation, and then we have a classic A320 overwing exit, and we have the Neo high-density config A321 overwing exit, and also with real-time slide inflation off the wing. What is unique about this setup is that we've got cabin visuals, and the cabin visuals are synchronized with the cockpit visuals. So we create one scenario, and everybody lives it. Okay. Yeah? So in a way, training is also compelling storytelling. Yeah? So you want to onboard everybody, and then go through scenarios together, and then there's no pretend, there's no imagine. You're in a scenario, which also makes it very easy for instructors to evaluate. Commonly, I'm asked by civil aviation authorities, we get audited a lot, how do you fail people? And I just think it's the wrong question. I think you should be asking, how do you make them succeed? So if we don't do any remedial training at all. If somebody has made a mistake, that's great, excellent. You've achieved 70%. Of what you're supposed to achieve, and now we'll take you and achieve 100% together. So there's no, so it's a non-punitive environment. We make sure that it's fun. It's great to have good equipment, but it's equally as important to have very, very good trainers. So it's a holistic approach. So at present, Dynamic Advanced Training only provides safety and emergency procedure training, so we don't do flight deck training. But the idea is to make a realistic environment so that it's also engaging for the pilots. So in this cockpit area, all the cabin-related safety switches are functional, and then typically, you can say that cabin safety is behind the cockpit door. However, there are also scenarios such as pilot incapacitation. So you've got functional seats, which are electrically or manually operated. You can open the cockpit window. We've got the Eros oxygen mask that you can put on people. You can try and remove people from the pilot seats if they're incapacitated, and then what do you do with them when there's not enough space? So it's sort of it's an eye opener. Leg, body, leg. Now, John, you're not the biggest person I've ever seen. What are the contents of your emergency kit, your survival kit? How does it work? Try it out. We mixed it up with medical emergencies as well. So if somebody, let's say, is broken a femur, what does it feel like to lift a body that weighs, it's not untypical of a male human being weighing 100 kilos. But try it out, try lifting something that weighs only 80 kilos where the arms and legs are floppy and all over the place. So it's not that easy. These are hard settings now. You can do a lot of CRM in here, which is crew resource management, which is, in very simplified terms, is how to use everything that is at your disposal to achieve a good outcome. So with regard to the staffing shortages in aviation experienced around the world, I can say that the UAE has performed possibly as one of the best countries in the world. We all knew that there was going to be a rebound in aviation. The big question was when. And timing something is not as easy as, in hindsight, it's easy to determine, but looking ahead is very complex. But the UAE did had a really good response to it across all sectors. So you've got, for example, air traffic control. You've got the air crew for the various airlines. You've got ground handlers. You've got check-in staff. I mean, it's a complex industry, and but the UAE really worked well together to be able to cater to the travel demand that bounced back like it was a bow wave being pushed ahead. People weren't able to travel for 2 years and wanted to go and see their loved ones or go on vacation or business travel. And so when it did rush back, when the wave did rush back, the UAE was well prepared. At the moment, we're only at 70% of 2019. So there's still some way to go. However, the UAE is well prepared for this. The way that we do provide our training is slightly different or very different than conventional training. So our emphasis is on hands-on training. So we do have classrooms, and I call them expensive coat hangers, where we will go through an OHS briefing in the morning, a bit of an introduction, some theoretical components of it, but most of the training is conducted on our full flight cabin simulators or other advanced training equipment.